shake the matrix, expand our minds, and make us all think. How are you guys doing? Today we've got a very important one to discuss, and I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy this, and I'm sure that if you were watching this, whether it's this morning, whether it's live, whether it's the afternoon, whether it's the evening, that this was the time of remembering for you. And remember, we're not separated, okay? You are me, I am you. We're nothing more than fragmented pieces of another floating around in this existence, remembering the truth of us. So, today we are going to talk about this beautiful thing as crossing the threshold, but I'm not certain it feels it's so beautiful when we're walking through it. So, all right, family, let's just take a deep, deep breath with each other. Let me send out a couple of little invites here. Out some invites. So, let's breathe in through our noses, shall we? And hold and then let it out through our mouth. Let's let our jaw soften and our minds begin to slow down. Let's put our hands on our heart and just say, the body, the mindset of the fallen mindset, the fallen world, the demerge, turn off, deactivate. Mindset of creation, the spark of the divine within, fully activated and on. Let's let your mind begin to slow down, because what we are talking about today is something very deep. And this is about the moment when a life that has been compressed begins to actually open up. This is about the threshold. This is about the point where what was once held under pressure begins to catch fire. And that fire is not destruction. It is activation. It is remembrance. It is the emergence of what was always there. So let's go there together. Compression before expansion. See, there are seasons in life when we feel compressed, pressed down, restricted, held in, shaped by pressure, and shaped by pain, shaped by even the environment around us. And many people think that compression means something is going wrong. But in nature, compression often comes before expansion. A seed is buried before it sprouts. A forest is cleared before it renews. A caterpillar dissolves before it becomes a butterfly, and a spark needs kindling. Fire needs contact. Did you know that? So when life feels heavy, good morning, when it feels like you are being pressed, when it feels like the outer world is putting weight on your inner world, that doesn't always mean what you are, it doesn't always mean you are being destroyed. It just feels like it sometimes, Sometimes it means you are being prepared. And sometimes it means the next version of you is just gathering force beneath the surface. And that is where the threshold begins. See, the environment matters. See, the environment we are in actually matters. More than many people even realize. Where we're at matters. We are not separate from the spaces we move through. We are not unaffected by the energy around us. See, when we are not untouched by the people, systems, pressures, and rhythms that shape our daily life. Science tells us this is, in many ways, the nervous system responds to environment. The brain adapts to repeated input, and the body learns what it is surrounded by. The psyche absorbs what is normalized, and the identity forms in relationship to the field around us. So if the environment is chaotic, the self can basically become tense. If the environment is nurturing, the self can open. And if the environment is abusive, the self can compress. You know? And if the environment is alive, honest, and safe, self can begin to breathe again. This is why the context of our lives matters so much. Hello, Rika. It is not just about what is inside of you. It is about what is pressing on you. You know, what is feeding you? What is even holding you? And what is constraining you? And what is inviting you to grow? You know, the environment can either keep the spark buried or help the fire catch. And the spark and the kindling, well, let's talk about the fire. Let's talk about the fire, because this is one of the most important images that I can give you. All right. This is what we do. You're hilarious, but thanks for putting the algorithm up. I appreciate you for that. But as far as your comments, you're wasting your own air and you're taking away from your own energy. And I would encourage you to reconsider that. So I'm going to give you a bit of time to think about this. Maybe listen. It might help you. There you go. So let's talk about every fire begins with a spark. But a spark alone is not enough. You know, there has to be something to catch. Something dry enough, something ready enough, something close enough to the source for even ignition to happen. And that is kindling. And this is how I see a human awakening. The spark is the moment of contact, the catalyst, the touch, you know, the word, the heartbreak, the realization, the encounter, the threshold moment, we call it. Hello, you want a shout out? You just got a whole bunch. I'll say Michael, that's about it, man. But hi. Does that help you? Do you feel like you're not being seen right now? May you be seen. May you feel seen. May you feel totally seen, totally accepted. May you recognize that you are here for more than just making comments. You got brought here for a reason. So, let's talk about the fire that follows is not created by the spark alone. See, the spark reveals what was already capable of burning. And that is actually important because it makes you recognize that that's the catalyst, you know, because the catalyst does not create your soul. See, the catalyst reveals your readiness. And it does not manufacture your light, it exposes it. See, it does not give you your truth either. It awakens what was already waiting. And that is why the teachers and the healers and the guides and the books and the moments, the losses, the revelations even, all of them matter. But none of them are the source of your fire either. They are catalysts. They light what was already alive inside of you. Let's talk about the student's fire. You know, this is where we have to be very clear. The guru does not own the fire. And the teacher does not own the fire. And the message does not even own the fire. And the book does not own the fire. The fire has always belonged to the student. The spark of the divine has always belonged to you. And the teacher may light the flame, but the teacher may point the way. And the teacher may reflect truth, and the teacher may help the spark meet the kindling. But the living flame is yours. And that is the greatest truth of awakening. No one can burn for you. No one can awaken for you. You know, no one can integrate for you. No one can become whole on your behalf. The path must be lived inwardly. That is why the real teacher is not trying to create dependency. The real teacher is trying to awaken recognition. Not follow me, but remember you. You know, not I am the fire. No, the fire is already you. And that changes everything. It changes it all. I mean, science of activation. I mean, let's bring in science again. In the body and the brain, activation often happens through a combination of readiness, stress, attention, and repetition. And something can remain dormant for a long time until the right condition brings it online. And that's true biology. It is true psychology, and it is true development, and it is true in transformation. See, the human being is not static. We are a responsive system, and we are an adaptive system, and we are a living system. And what is dormant can become active, and what is hidden can surface, and what is compressed can expand, and what is fragmented can integrate. And this is why people sometimes go through life phases where they suddenly cannot remain the same. The pressure becomes too much. The old structure no longer holds. The false identity begins to crack, and the deeper self begins to emerge. And this is not random. This is activation. This is a threshold being crossed. Psychology and the old self. See, psychology and the old self, psychology gives us another layer. When a person has lived for a long time, survival, the self, often organizes around protection. And you become who you had to become. You do what you had to do. And you shape yourself around what was possible. And those adaptations may have been necessary. But at a certain point, what once protected you can begin to imprison you. That is when the threshold appears and you begin to feel the old self no longer fit. See, you begin to sense that the life you built under pressure cannot contain the person you are becoming. You begin to outgrow the role you played to be safe. And that can feel frightening because the old self is familiar. Even if it is painful, it is known. But the emerging self is real. The real things often require courage. This is the crossing. The old identity begins to loosen and the new identity begins to gather shape. And then for a while, you live in between worlds, and this in-between place is not failure, it is transformation. Thank you for saying sweet message. Philosophy and becoming. Philosophy has always wrestled with becoming, right? What does it mean to change? What does it mean to remain yourself while also becoming now and new? What is essence? What is appearance? What is permanent? What is passing? The threshold teaches us that life is not a fixed object. It is process. You are not a statue. You are a river. You are not only what has already been formed, you are also what is still unfolding. And that meant the self is not something you finish once and for all. It is something you reveal. It is something you uncover. It is something you embody more fully over time. And when you cross the threshold, you are not leaving yourself behind. You are leaving behind what could not carry your truth. And that is a major distinction. You are not betraying who you were. You are honoring who you are now becoming. And nature knows this. Nature tells this story everywhere, and a seed has to spill. It has to spill, and a shell has to crack, and a cocoon has to dissolve. A tree has to grow through weather. A river has to cut through stone, and a forest has to burn something in order to renew. Fire is not always destruction. Sometimes fire is the clean force that makes way for new life, and sometimes fire burns away the dead matter, and sometimes fire reveals what is strong. And sometimes fire transforms what cannot remain in its old form. That is why the image of the threshold and the fire matters so much. See, the fire burns away what is false. The fire reveals what is true. And the fire brings the hidden into visibility. And what remains after the burn is not emptiness. It is essence, Gnostic truth. Let's talk about that now. Let's go a little deeper into the layers, because the Gnostic's truth tells us that beneath the layers of illusion, distortion, and false identity, there is a deeper original design. A divine remembrance, a spark, a true self that has not been destroyed, only covered. And the threshold then is not only a psychological moment, it is a spiritual crossing. It is a moment from forgetting to remembering, from false to true self, from distortion to wholeness, from separation to source, and that is where the fire becomes sacred. See, because it is not only burning away what is false, it is revealing what was always true. And the real self does not need to be created from scratch, it needs to be uncovered. The Gnosis is in essence, not inventing a new soul. It's remembering the one that was always there. The spark of the divine, the return to Eden. And this is where we talk about the belongings. You know, Return to Eden is one of my books that I've written. It's my third book in the trilogy of the Awaken trilogy. And you can get them up on Amazon. You can also look for the tree link. I just go tree link and mystical Ariel. The journey through simulation, suffering, compression, awakening, remembrance, and return. See, it speaks to the movement from external confusion to internal truth. And I write about it speaks to the realization that paradise is not something we chase outside of ourselves. It is within this temple. And that return is not always comfortable. My goodness, it can be very uncomfortable. It's stretching. And I mean, refiner's fire is a real legit thing. Because the path back to Eden requires the burning away of the false world we built to survive. The false ideas, the false belief systems, the lies we believe to make it through this existence of the things we believe to be true. And so when when you go and gaze into the mirror, when you go and live this, you're now embodying it. You become the testimony. And it becomes a story of crossing the threshold and discovering that what looked like death, pressure, or collapse was actually a doorway to freedom. I want to talk about the healer and seer. See, this brings us to something beautiful. And the one who crosses the threshold often becomes both healer and seer. The healer because they understand suffering from the inside out. The seer because they have learned to perceive beyond the surface. And this person can walk through worlds. They can move between pain and wisdom, between shadow and light, between confusion and clarity, between the visible and the invisible. And that is not because they are superior. It is because they have been transformed. They have passed through fire and they have been pressed and they have been ignited. They have been changed and now they carry a different kind of knowing. A knowing that comes only from ideas but from passage. The moment of ignition. Now let's talk about the exact moment of ignition. See, there's often one moment where it becomes undeniable. The moment the old story is no longer hold at all. The moment the lie begins to break. And the moment the truth lands. And the moment the body just knows. The moment the heart clicks into recognition, and that moment may feel quiet, it may feel sudden, it may feel like grief, and it may feel like relief, and it may feel like both, but something is permanently altered, because once the spark hits the kindling and the fire takes, you cannot go back to pretending the same way. Something has been awakened, something has been exposed, something has been lit. And now the question is not whether the fire is real. Much love to you guys. And this is where I want to speak to one more layer. This is the moment the wound resolves, the moment the distortion breaks. It's the moment the conflict inside begins to settle. The moment the false identity loses its hold, and then that is the turning point. See, sometimes I think of it as the moment when the internal Cohen resolves, the fractured thing inside us that has been divided, compressed, and bound by old conditions finally begin to soften and open. And when that happens, the truth that has always been there becomes easier to live. Not because life becomes perfect, but because the internal war begins to end. And that's huge. Because so much of suffering is not only from the outside world, it is from the split inside. The part of us that knows, the part of us that fears, the part of us that performs, the part of us that remembers, and the part of us that hides. See, crossing the threshold is the moment, the movement towards unity. It's the many pieces begin to meet, the fire begins to coherence, and the soul begins to gather itself. And in that gathering, there's peace. So if you're compressed right now, if you feel the pressure, if you feel the heat, if you feel the strain of becoming, if you feel the environment pressing on you, if you feel the spark trying to catch, do not be afraid. You may be at the threshold. You may be at the standing in the moment where the old form can no longer hold new truth. And if that is where you are, then listen closely. Because the fire is not here to destroy you. It is here to reveal you. The catalyst is not your source. It is only the spark. And the kindling is already in you. And the flame belongs to you. And the healing belongs to you. And the seeing belongs to you. And the crossing belongs to you. And what burns free is not what was truly you. What burns free is everything could not survive your awakening. So breathe. And stay with the fire. Let it do its work. And know that the other side of this threshold is not emptiness, it is Eden. It is remembrance. It is your original design. It is the self that was always waiting to emerge. So breathe with me. And stay rooted. Stay open. Stay true. And remember, you were never meant to remain compressed. You were meant to cross the threshold and burn free. Never forget that. I am in a converted shuttle bus. Yeah. And it's pretty dope. It's like a condo on wheels, man. It's actually really nice. I got like a big ass 9-foot couch that turns into a bed. I have a queen size bed that I'm on right now. I have a projector right there. I have a full kitchen, Berkeley water filters. I got a shower, bathroom, self-sustainable completely. Yeah. I love it. And right now I'm actually on property, so yeah. But normally I'm traveling all over. And dude, I'm in Arizona right now. If you know what's weird is I thoroughly like the heat. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's getting me eating, and it makes my body feel better. But yeah, I'm in Arizona, man. We got AC in it too, so you know. Right there, AC, and another mini split right there. So yeah, you know, we got the things. It is a vitamin D overload, and I have a vitamin D deficiency, so maybe it's just loving on me, you know? Yeah, it's kind of crazy. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening and thanks for tuning in. Make sure you share this with someone who you believe needs to hear this and see this and expand their minds and everything else. And may you understand, us individuals, we are not individual. We are one of the divine. And we're just forgetting, you know, we forgot, and we believed we were these fragmented pieces all over the place. But we were one heart, one mind, one soul, one being, one consciousness. Never forget that. So peace and love. We'll see you next time.